Hello everyone. I think everyone is connecting right now. Uh, the most of the people that has been registered, I think, is there are online. Okay, I think we can start. Of course, this is 1 hour seminar. Um, I would say that if you have any question, please hold those questions for the end of the presentation, and I will try to answer all of them at the end. And that's it. And I think we can start with the presentation. So hello everyone, thanks for coming. My name is Daniel, and I work in the support department in CYPE, and we are here to show you how we can create the renewable installation with MEP solution using the CYPE softwares. That is why, in order to introduce all this presentation, I want to talk a little bit about the BIMserver.center, because the BIMserver.center is the web page that allowed us to work with to use the OpenBIM workflow. First of all, because the BIMserver.center works as an online cloud that allowed us to have all the projects stored in the BIMserver.center, and we can share all this information with the work team, with our work team, and we can also have all the softwares available to download in only one web page. That is why if we Google the BIMserver.center, we have the possibility, well, of course we have to log in, but we must have an account so we can register here. So in case you don't have an account, I suggest you to register and try to log in into the BIMserver.center and check what this web page can offer to you. So I already have an account. I only have to access and to log in into that account, and I want to focus here. This would be the main menu of the BIMserver.center. And I want to focus here in the project menu and the store menu. Of course, the project menu allowed us to have all the projects that we are currently working on. We are able to check that project. We are able to check how the project is going. We can also check all the files that we have uploaded into the BIMserver.center. As you can see, this is a 3D view of the building. We click on the drop-down menu. We are able to show and to hide all the files that that the members of our work team have created and have introduced, such as the solar thermal installation. We can get the lighting analysis. We can perform any kind of section in the building. We can rotate and check how the project is going. We can also check and see all the members of our work team that are working on that project. We can also check all the files that have been uploaded into this project, and we can check, of course, everything of the project. But the second part that I want to focus is here on the store that allowed us to download all the softwares. Well, not only download, allowed us to find all the software available to download from CYPE. Of course, we have here a search engine that allowed us to type any keyword, and automatically the search engine will filter all the software available with that fits with those keywords. For example, we have these two softwares that we are going to see here today. So once we have find out the software that we want to use, we can click on the software, and automatically we are going to have a small description of the software, the language available of this software, the version that we are going to use, a link to the main web page of the software, some images with information of how the program looks, and we are able to download the software and to install it with any kind of issue. So now that we know what is BIMserver.center and what we can do with this program, I want to show you the model that we are going to use here today. That is why I want to introduce you to the CYPE architecture software that we have in the BIMserver.center for free. This software allowed us to create the architectural model of the building. It works in a 3D view. We can work with this program in a 3D view. Of course, we can use a 2D view of the model, and we can work with different dimensions. And this program uses different layers to introduce all the elements of the building. So as you can see here, the program is divided into 3 different tabs. The first one would be the sketch that allowed us to introduce any kind of drawing in order to help us to introduce and to define all the elements of the architectural model. With the architecture tab, we are able to introduce all the construction elements available, or all the construction elements that our building needs. For example, such as vertical elements, we can introduce any kind of wall, partition wall. We can introduce screeds, roofs, different openings. For example, the connection. The program has predefined some different elements that we can introduce with only one click into the into the into the building, and it's very simple to use it. And also we have a third tab that says furniture, that allowed us to introduce every kind of furniture in our building. For example, we can introduce the home appliances, electricity, we can introduce the sanitary appliances, and all those elements that we can introduce will interact with other softwares due to the fact that we can use the OpenBIM workflow. So, but how we can use the OpenBIM workflow with the CYPE architecture? As you can see here, we have 2 buttons that are common to every software that we have in CYPE. The most important probably is going to be the share one, that allowed us to export this file into the BIMserver.center and have this file attached to a project into the BIMserver.center. So when we click on accept, automatically we will export this file and this architectural model into the BIMserver.center. I'm not going to do that because I already have this file uploaded into the BIMserver.center, and now that we have exported all the architectural model, we are able to move on to the softwares that I want to focus here today, that are going to be the Simplex Pv System, that for example, with the Simplex Pv System, of course, it's a software that allowed us to design the grid-connected photovoltaic systems, as well as off-grid photovoltaic installation system. So once we open the program, this is the common menu that we are going to have for every CYPE software that we have available. When we want to start a new file, we have to click here on new, pick the name, a small description if we want to add any kind of description into that file. And now is when we have the possibility to attach this file, this installation, into a project that we have already created into the BIMserver.center. For example, this one, that is the library that we are going to work with. And as you can see here, we have the BIM model that we have created with the CYPE architecture. We have the file that came from the BIMserver.center. We have the check that says that we can import this architectural model. We click on accept, and automatically the program will import all the information from this file that is uploaded into the BIMserver.center. But we have a second option, that is to create a new project. So if we want to create a new project, we only have to pick the name depending on what kind of project we want for this installation. We can fill up all the parameters of this project, click on accept, and automatically we are going to have the project already created. Well, we are going to have the project created into the BIMserver.center. However, there is a third option, that is that if we already have the installation created, or we have the file already created, we have the recent files menu that allowed us a quick access to the files that we have created before. So this would be the final result of what we can do with this Simplex Pv system. This is the building that we have imported from the BIMserver.center that we have created with CYPE architecture. And I already have created the photovoltaic installation, because this is a huge installation, and I want to show you what you can do with this kind of programs. So as you can see here, of course, the software imports the BIM model, and we will be able to work with it. And the most important thing probably is that we are able to integrate the installation with the architectural model. All right. So there we go. We can rotate, work in a 3D view of the building and the installation. We can move this 3D view. Of course, we can check the installation and work with a 2D view of the architectural model. And depending on our preferences of work, we can swap between different views and work with that. But okay, maybe this is I know that you are asking questions, but this is probably the most common question that the people used to ask. That is, can we import different architectural models from different programs? And I say yes. The answer is yes. I mean, the program can read any BIM model created with the IFC standard from any other program. Of course, you must always go in through the BIMserver.center. I mean, we are using the OpenBIM workflow, and if you go through the BIMserver.center, you will be able to import that architectural model into this program. Okay, now that we have imported the architectural model, what can we do with this software? Of course, we have here on the top part of the menu, we have all the tools that we have available for this software. And I want to focus here with the elements of library. That this is those are the libraries that the program allowed us to introduce any element of the installation, such as panels, inverters, regulators, accumulators, and and wires and so on. So if you work with any supplier that can give you the technical file of the equipment and all its parameter, you will be able to define all the technical parameters of the elements and work with the real equipment on the market or the one that you are supposed to work with. All right. The same goes for all the elements that we have here. So depending on the technical parameter, you can introduce every kind of equipment in the PV system software. So now that we have introduced all the elements that we want to use in our installation, before start introducing all the elements of all the elements of our installation, I want to show you here a tool that does an analysis of a production and consumption before starting the design. I mean, we can predefine the installation by creating a monthly energy balance month by month. We can also have a total energy and economic balance to get an idea of what kind of installation interests us and fit better with our building and our needs. Because if we can enter the production and consumption, we are able to get also the amortization period of the panels, and we can also get all this information, all the charts divided by months, and all the calculation solution of all the elements that we have introduced and all the data that we have introduced. But okay, this would be the final result. But in order to show you how simple is that, because this is a tool quite awesome and it's a piece of cake to use this kind of software, I want to show you what you can do with this tool and how you have to do it. For example, and it's very simple. Okay, of course we have here the different months that we can swap between them, and automatically all the data is calculated and updated related to that month. But what we need to do here is to introduce the production. In production, it's not necessary to enter all the data one by one. I mean, we can import all this data from the PVGs. I mean, the PVGs, we click here, hold on a second. There we go. Automatically it pops up a window that is the link to the web page. Of course, this is a very well-known page with all the necessary data from the irradiance data that we have to import to the software. Of course, this is a map of the world that we can move through this map in order to get the location of our building. However, we have the possibility to type here a direction of the building. In case we know the parameters and the location of the building, we can type it here, or we can interact with the map. I mean, for example, the headquarters of CYPE are here in Alicante, so I can blow up the map, and with only the left click, we are able to get all the, hey, hold on, this is in Spanish, sorry. You can swap between different languages, all right? So, sorry for that mistake. As I said, if we blow the map up, we can place the location of our building and get all the irradiance data from that location. Okay, we go here into daily data. We click on the information that we want to import, and we also have to choose what the month that we want to import this data from. All right. And now that we have picked the month and the data that we want to import, we are able to download, for example, get the April one. We are able to download the file that we can import to into the PV system. And now, if we go back to the software, let me hide this web page. Okay, there we go. We are able to import that file that we have downloaded with only one click, and automatically all this data is updated. So we don't have to introduce all this data one by one. We can import it from this web page. However, in consumption, we have to introduce all consumption data that the user of the project is supposed to have. Or if we don't have this information, we will have to estimate it in order to get all the results. So now that we have introduced all this data, we can have, of course, the total balance, which would be the results. And of course, well, I have to say that total balance, I almost forgot, that depends on the edit cost that we have introduced here. So depending on the country that we are currently working on, those prices and cost can be different. So the program allowed us to modify all these parameters. So once we have defined the edit cost, we are able, of course, this is a pre-dimensioner, so we are able to modify not only the month that we want to perform the study, we are able to change and to modify the equipment that we have introduced before here on the elements library. All those elements are the equipment that we have defined previously. So now that we have picked the element that we want to perform the study, we are able also to modify the panels that we want to install in our installation. I mean, and automatically the monthly balance and the total balance is updated, as well as the production and consumption analysis. And one more time, due to the fact that we have changed all the parameters, we are able to get all the charts and all the calculation into any kind of format. All right. This is if we go back to the original example, this is an installation of 221 photovoltaic models. And now that we have pre-designed our installation, it's time to create that installation. So the installation, of course, integrates perfectly with all the elements. Due to the fact that the PV system reads the model detecting all the surfaces, and we can place the installation with only a simple click. I mean, I'm going to show you how to introduce all the elements, and you will see how easy it is to introduce elements. So all the elements available to introduce in this software are up here. And for example, with the photovoltaic model, this is common for every equipment that we want to introduce. We are able to choose what kind of photovoltaic model or what kind of equipment we want to introduce based on what we have defined here on Elements Library. And we click on Accept, and automatically we are able to introduce this equipment with only 2 clicks. So let's make an example. We place 2 photovoltaic models. We click and place here a connection box. We can place an inverter. And for example, to finish with this installation, finish it with a network connection point that allowed us, depending on what kind of installation we want, we have the possibility to connect that installation isolated from the network or connected to the network. Okay, so we click here, and the last thing that we have to do is to connect all those elements with wires. Okay, and automatically connect all those elements, and now we have all the installation completely installed. And as you can see here, it's quite simple to place all the elements and to integrate all the elements with the BIM model that we have imported from the BIMserver.center. So, but I already have created the installation, so I'm going to delete those elements, and now it's time to calculate, because when we finished of introducing all the elements of the installation, we are able to calculate all the elements. The program calculates the checks of the wires. It also calculates all the equipment, such as the inverters, the checks, if those checks complies or doesn't comply with the installation and the code. It also calculates all the elements that have been introduced. Of course, I have to say that all of them based on the code and calculation of photovoltaic installation. So as you can see here, this is quite fast, because this is a 221 photovoltaic panels installation. This is a huge installation, and as you can see here, it's gonna take 1 minute and a half, or even though 1 minute and 10 seconds more or less, and the power of the calculation of this program is quite awesome too. So now that hold on a second, yeah, now more or less we have finished the calculation, so we are able to the analysis have been corrected with any issue. We click on accept, okay, and now we have the calculation finished. I would say that work with the BIM model is very important, because the program, I mean the software with the photovoltaic panels, the software reads the elements that are around it and generate the profile of shadows in that panel that we have in that panel. I mean, thanks to the solar projection with the elements of the BIM model on the panels, the program generates the entire shadow profiles automatically. What we have here, once we have calculated the installation, we have the loss due to shading, and we have the shading diagram. And we have the shading diagram of every panel of our installation. All right, so I mean, trying to get the shading diagrams one by your own is gonna be very painful. I mean, yeah, and due to the fact that we are working with 221 photovoltaic panels, get all the shading diagrams in only 1 minute and 10 seconds is quite awesome. And not only the shading diagram, we are also able to get the loss due to orientation and inclination. Okay, so this is quite awesome. So we can also see the calculation that we have done of every element of the installation. If we place the mouse on the top of one of the element, as you can see here, it pops up a window with all the parameters of that equipment, and also the design results. So, and not only for the panel. So if I hide the BIM model, for example, we are able also to check the result of all the elements of the installation. For example, the inverter, all the checks that we have introduced and we have defined in the elements library, and we can have all the information. Of course, this program is optimal for calculating the self-consumption and photovoltaic fields. The program has no problem with it. And now that we have calculated the installation and we have defined all the installation, now it's time to get probably the most important thing that that we can get from these programs, that are the reports. Here on the top left corner, we have a small button that says report, and automatically we can get from this program 3 different reports. The install power, we can also have the production summary. This very important document that allowed us to have all the production divided by months on the chart of that production. We can of course export this report into any kind of format, and we can also get, for example, the justification calculation in case we want to check all the formulas that has been used to get all the results. We are able to check all that information here. Not only the formulas, we can also check all the results of every element that we have introduced in the installation. And of course, one more time, we are able to export this report into any kind of format. Just to finish quickly with this program and move on to the CYPE plumbing solar system, I want to show you how the program, depending on all the equipment that we have introduced in the photovoltaic installation, the program generates automatically the single line diagram. All right, so this is something that you can let the program introduce automatically, or in case you want to perform any kind of modification in the single line diagram, you are able to introduce all the elements one by one into the diagram, and that's it. I mean, you can introduce all the elements. You can perform any kind of modification. It's quite simple. You can delete any of them and to modify, create a new one. Feel free to test it and to check how powerful this tool is. Okay, so this would be the photovoltaic, the PV system. We can also share this information because, as I said, we are able to, we can use the OpenBIM workflow, and thanks that we are connected to the BIMserver.center, we can share, export this installation and automatically export finish. So if we go to the synchronizer, as you can see here, we have the file that is being uploaded into the BIMserver.center. So if we go back to the BIMserver.center, we go to the project. I'm going to show you here. We go to the library, and as you can see here, we have this file that has been uploaded a few seconds ago. This is the file that we have been working on and has been uploaded into the BIMserver.center in a few seconds, and the members of the work team can get these files into other program in order to continue using the OpenBIM workflow. So now that we have shown how to use the Simplex Pv system, it's time to show this program that is called CYPE PlanBIM Solar System. The solar system software allowed us to design and analyze the complete solar thermal energy contribution installation for hot water and heating in any kind of building. As I said before, when we open up any kind of software here inside, we are going to have always the same menu that allowed us to create a new one, open our recent files and some information about the program. But I know the time is running, so I'm gonna pick a different building. Okay, this building is the just to show you that we can use different buildings. It doesn't matter which one. This is an 8th floor residential building. This software allowed us to work only with a 2-dimension menu. However, we can check the building into a 3D view and check how the installation fits with the architectural model. Of course, the workflow is the same that we did with the PV system. This is only a different building that we have in the BIMserver.center. We have created the IFC standard file. We have uploaded into the BIMserver.center. And we have imported this BIM model. Of course, what we have here are all the layers available that we have created in the BIM model. We can hide, modify that construction element. We can modify the view, rotate, and so on. We can check only the installation. We can perform any kind of visual modification in the 3D view. But the most important thing here is how this program works and what we can do with this program. As I said before, the program work with the different floor plans that we have imported from the IFC file. We can also work with only a 2D view of those floors, and we have a small 3D view of the building in case we want to check something that we are introducing. Of course, we can perform any kind of section. We can modify that section. We can rotate the building and work in a 2D view, but we can also check all the progression in the 3D view window that we have. Of course, if we want to hide any element of the building, we are able to hide or to show that information imported from the BIM model. All right. For example, if we want to check how we can introduce all the installation, this is a very good tool that we can use at any time. All right. So, of course, all these dimensions you can modify, and that's it. But as we did before with the elements library, in this program we have the general option that allowed us to introduce all the materials and all the equipment that we want to introduce in our building. If we want to introduce the solar thermal collector, we are able to introduce all the parameters of that solar thermal collector. And not only that, I mean, we can also export this configuration. So if we want to use this equipment in future projects, we are able to export this configuration and then import it in future projects. So we can introduce the solar thermal collectors, we can introduce the tanks with all the properties. One more time, we can export and import this configuration. For example, we can also introduce as many pumps as we want. We can define all the pumps by giving the midpoint, or we can introduce all the points that are in the pump chart. All right. So we can introduce all the equipment that we need for our installation. And also probably the most important thing that we can introduce here is that we can define the design and the check that we want to carry out in our installation based on the codes and the necessities of the country that we are working on. For example, with solar thermal collector, we are able to introduce, of course, the reference, a small description, but we can introduce all the design and checks that we want to carry out of the solar thermal collectors that we have placed in our installation. So based on those parameters that is supposed to be the code that we want to comply with it, we are able to define all these parameters. And one more time, we can export this configuration in order to have it stored in our computer. And also, we are able to modify the F chart with the solar thermal system for hot water, for solar system for heating, minimum correction coefficient and the maximum, and so on. And we can define all the checks that we want for our installation. For example, the pipes. We are able to define all the checks that we want to carry it out in our installation, and just we only have to introduce all those parameters. All right. Now that we have introduced all the equipment and all the checks that we want to carry it out, it's time to locate the building into any place in the world. But how we can do that? I mean, we need all the weather condition from the location, but if we know those data, we are able to introduce all those data one by one, for example, and modify. But if we don't know all this information, we are able to we have predefined a library that comes from the American Society S-Ray that allowed us to introduce or to locate the building into any location in the world. For example, let's make an example. We can place the building in Asia, for example. We can place the country in, I don't know, Thailand, and we have all the station names of Thailand available. So if we click here, we click on accept, and automatically all the data from that location is imported, thanks to the fact that we are linked to the American Society S-Ray information. However, we have a quick access depending on the country that we can. We have a small location that allowed us to introduce all this information by clicking on the map. For example, I'm going to continue the example like I did before with the Alicante data, that are the data that our headquarters has. So we click on accept, and now we have all the equipment already defined. We have the location, but I already have the installation completely done. But like I did before, I want to show you how we can introduce all this data. So all the equipment available to place it is up here on the top menu. We have all, for example, the solar collector. This is a huge window that allowed us to, of course, select the equipment that we have defined in the general option. But we can also, what I want you to focus here is in the medium part of the window that allowed us to modify all the parameters. For example, the number of collectors. We are able to introduce any kind of elevation, for example. We are able to introduce the consumption of those solar panels based on our needs, for example. And we have to configure all this, and of course we have all the checks and all the results that we have to check at the end. Okay, so we click on accept, and automatically the program will launch all this configuration that we have selected. We click, and automatically we have created the solar panels, and we can see how those panels interact with the BIM model that we have imported. All right, the same goes for the pipes, accessories, pumps, and tanks, but the clock is running and I want to finish today. And that's it. So now imagine that we have finished all the installation. We know that there is nothing left yet, but we need to perform the calculation and get the results. So one more time, we have exactly the same button that allowed us to calculate the installation, and that's it. Have you seen that? Oh, no, you haven't, because as I said, the software has is really powerful in order to get all the results. And as you can see here, now all the checks has been defined. We know that everything, and all the checks that we have defined with all the equipment that we have placed in our building fits with our needs. Of course, we have one more time the same diagrams or the same chart that we have before, like the shading diagrams. We have one more time the loss due to orientation or slope. We also have the solar contribution of that solar thermal collector. We also have not only the calculation, we also have the chart and so on. So now that we have all this data, what I want to show you here today we also can have a graphical analysis of the results that allowed us, for example, to check with a graphical analysis the parameters that we want to filter and or to consider in case we want to perform any kind of study. For example, the solar contribution. We can get, for example, the flow for the pipes. I don't know if you can check, if you can see the different color. Let me swap between, for example, the velocity of that. However, we can go to the 3D view. We can hide the BIM model, and that result, that graphical analysis of the results, we can check all that information in the 3D view, as you can see here. I don't know if you can appreciate that, but this quite a very useful tool in case you want to check something particular from your installation. However, now that we have finished all the installation, it's time to get the reports. All right. So as I said before, we can go on the top left corner. We have the report button that allowed us to get all the reports available from this program. For example, This document allowed us to get the report of consumption and solar capture demand. We can get the design criteria of this part. We can also get the results divided by months. We can get, as I said before, all the charts based on the loss due to orientational slope, the shading diagram, the climatic conditions. We can also, probably the most important part, the checks that we decided to 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 comply with the checks that we wanted to comply, depending on the code that we are supposed to work with. We have all the checks that we have defined based on the equipment that we have defined, and also the values of those checks, and also the status, if that check is verified or not. The same goes for the hydraulic circuit. We can get the design criteria, we can get the formulas and so on. And what I want to show you here, just to wrap up, in this case we have a lot of reports, but the program allowed us to generate a document that contains the report that we want. For example, if we only need one document that contains the design criteria, the results, the design criteria, and also the checks of the hydraulic circuit, and that's it. We are able to modify this document. We click on accept, and automatically the program will group up all those documents, all those reports, into only one document. Okay, we have here the index, and that's it. And we have, for example, the horizontal pipes that we haven't seen anything. We have here everything related to the pipes, the checks, the properties, the reference, and so on. And of course, we are able to export these reports into any kind of format. So this is some of the examples of how to create renewable installation with CYPE software. I only have to say that thank you for coming. It was a pleasure, but if you have any questions, please feel free to ask right now, because I would be grateful to help in case you have anything to ask.